AITA. I told my ex I can't trust her and she called me an incel. I, 34M, started dating my ex, 30F, 2 months ago. We met via a dating app and hit it off immediately due to our shared taste in folk metal. After a week's worth of conversations that eventually turned into long essays, from both sides, we finally had our first date. It was electric. She was smart, funny, charming, and gorgeous. We spent the entire night laughing and talking. She later told me she thought it was probably the best first date she ever had. We soon went on a second date, and the chemistry wasn't a fluke. Shortly after that second date, we both paused our dating apps and focused on each other. It was like we had completely captured each other's attention. We talked constantly over text, even when I was traveling. We met in person multiple times in a week for dates. We did all different kinds of activities, museums and art galleries, fancy dinners, hiking, D&D, cooking for her, cozy nights of cuddling and watching movies, etc. We spent a lot of time learning about each other. We are both immigrants in Canada from different cultures. She is Russian, I am Indian, and have never dated someone from the other culture. We talked about our backgrounds, the things that influenced us growing up, what things we valued and cared about, etc. I listened to podcasts she liked so we could share and discuss it with each other. We talked about things we wanted to do in the future, trips we could take together, family members we wanted to meet. We created spreadsheets with date ideas, restaurants to try, movies and TV shows to watch, etc. She gave me a thoughtful birthday present, and we planned Christmas gifts for each other. I say all this to paint a picture that, although we dated for barely 6 weeks on paper, they were an intense 6 weeks. In almost a decade of dating, very rarely have I felt such a connection with anyone. And I don't feel it was one-sided. I was on the lookout for a lopsided emotional involvement, but all indications pointed to the fact that she was just as excited to be dating me, given that she reciprocated my enthusiasm and energy. The only concern was that, in physical terms, we had only softly kissed each other. Our involvement was more intellectual and emotional. But she said that she was very slow to be comfortable with anything physical, and I was okay with that and didn't read much into it. Sometime around week 4, we committed to being serious and exclusive. I suggested it, and she responded with an enthusiastic yes. At that point, I considered us to be in the early stages of a relationship. Premature? Perhaps, you tell me. 2 weeks ago, we had a dinner date where I cooked for her, and we cuddled and watched The Good Place. She had never seen it. For those who don't know, The Good Place deals with heavy philosophical topics in a very fun and accessible manner. One of the topics that is talked about extensively is soulmates. We watched a couple of episodes, and she, somewhat abruptly, said she had to leave. I wasn't sure what was going on but said good night and went to bed. Next morning, she texted me to say she had something important to discuss. Over a short call, she broke up with me, stating that the show triggered some thoughts and memories in her, but didn't specify what. I was heartbroken but accepted and spent the rest of the day wallowing in self-pity. The next day, we got to talking, and I found out that the reason why she broke up with me was that the discussion about soulmates made her realize she was still in love with her ex. She dated her ex for 6 years during and after college, but they broke up and have been close friends for about 5 years. She had brought this up earlier, but assured me that there were no feelings involved, and I had taken her word for it. Throughout that day, we discussed her feelings, and it became clear to me that she was very much intent on trying to rekindle her relationship with her ex. So, I accepted that. But she wanted to remain friends with me. I told her that I could not remain friends with her while she pursued a relationship with someone else, and that was that for a while. But we stayed in touch, an Instagram like there, a comment here, until we started talking again. Particularly this week, since I had all 4 wisdom teeth extracted, and she emotionally supported me through text. She said that I was giving her mixed signals by talking to her, and that we should discuss it. So, we discussed it today. I told her that she hurt me when she broke up with me. I told her that I felt blindsided and a bit foolish for being led into emotionally investing so soon. I told her that dating was hard, and I wish she had known she was into her ex before she got into a relationship. Finally, I told her that she had broken my trust, and although we had so much in common, I wasn't sure if I could be her friend. Her response was, 1. I am an incel for thinking that I was owed a relationship, and that there was nothing to forgive. 2. That I had constructed a relationship in my head, and that it was unwise of me to be so emotionally invested in someone who is basically a stranger that I barely knew, and that, 3. I should get therapy and not be so lonely and desperate. She no longer wants to be friends. As an aside, I had shared with her that she triggered some trauma from a past relationship where my ex, who had at the time undiagnosed BPD, would randomly break up with me. Her response was that things are never random, and that I shouldn't be surprised if I failed a performance review. I wrote back saying, 1. I do not think she owes me a relationship. I am upset because she led me on by telling me she had no feelings for her ex and then hurting me by breaking up with me for him. 2. That it was unfair of her to characterize us as strangers who barely knew each other, and that, 3. My feelings were valid under the circumstances, and just because she had not experienced difficulties in dating. She had only been dating for a few weeks before we met, it didn't mean dating wasn't hard. She hasn't responded. I don't think she will read my final response. And part of me doesn't care whether she will. I felt that she minimized the intensity of our relationship, gaslit me for having feelings, and victim-blamed me for my trauma. I do not consider her a good person anymore, and do not want to be friends with her. If this all sounds very juvenile to you, then I agree, I am embarrassed for myself. If you think I was too eager and invested too much into the relationship early on, I agree with you. But, Reddit, I do want to know, am I the asshole? Or rather, the incel? I have had a tough time dating after the pandemic. It sometimes feels like nobody is willing to put in any effort, so maybe I have picked up some incel traits and thoughts that are perhaps obviously on display here, but I am not able to see upon self-reflection?